everywhere. GBS.
To you and welcome to tonight's bulletin. Thank you for joining us here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. This is GBS News at 9. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mastanke. We have the day's news stories for you, and of course, do remember to engage us on our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. But first, let's kickstart on stories making headlines. The Azimio coalition leaders have today formally served the police with the notice of their planned demonstration as scheduled for next week on Monday and Thursday. While addressing the press after the handover, Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni said they handed the notice to the Nairobi Regional Commander Adamson Bungei in compliance with the law. Earlier, Nairobi Commander Bungei termed Azimio's Monday protest illegal as they submitted their notice late. He was in company of the chairman of Executive Council Wycliffe Oparanya, former Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, and Roots Party leader George Wajakoya. Let's take a look.
Mzalendo halisi wa Kenya.
The Azimio coalition has today filed a notice to the Nairobi Regional Commander Adamson Bungei, informing him of the intention to hold peaceful demonstration in Nairobi on Monday 27th and Thursday 2023. According to the Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, they handed the notice to the Nairobi Regional Commander in compliance with the law. Earlier, Nairobi Commander Bungei termed Azimio's Monday protest illegal as they submitted their notice late.
We came several days ahead of Monday and invited the media. Is because last time we still served ahead of time, but without the media. So when the commander said that he did not receive the notice, his word was his word against ours. You've been with us. They have difficulties doing what they should be doing, but we have served the letter for Monday demonstrations and Thursday demonstrations.
The letter addressed to Bungei was submitted at Nairobi Regional Police Headquarters by Azimio leaders including Eugene Wamalwa, Jeremiah Kioni, Wycliffe Oparanya, and Roots Party leader George Wajakoya. However, Bungei said letters on intent to picket should not be addressed to him, but the rightful regulating officers in respective police stations. On February 22nd, the Azimio Party leader issued 6 demands to President William Ruto, failure to which the opposition will lead the country to mass action in 14 days. The demands were lowering the cost of living, reduce taxes, the government to restore subsidies on education, restore subsidy on foodstuffs to cushion Kenyans from the high cost of living, Ruto to halt the process of reconstituting IEBC, and finally, IEBC servers should be opened and a reputable firm appointed to audit the 2022 elections. President William Ruto hit back at the Azimio La Umoja Brigade, saying the government will not be intimidated by the ultimatums, adding that the cost of living will gradually go down and not within days as Azimio wanted.
Mambo ya uchaguzi na mambo ya viongozi tulimalizana nayo. Mambo ya saa hii ni mambo ya hawa wananchi. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Tunaelewana? Mimi nataka niwaambie wale ndugu zetu watulize boli. Watulize boli. Tunaelewana? Na wasituuzie uoga. Sisi sio watu wa kuuziwa uoga. Tunaelewana?
Upon lapsing of the deadline of Azimio's 14-day ultimatum, Mr. Odinga on Sunday 19th March announced the nationwide protests, which were supported by student leaders from Nairobi.
Haturudi nyuma. Siku ya Jumatatu akithubutu kuleta hiyo tears, tunaona na yeye mundu kwa mundu.
As you are all aware, Monday the 20th, 2023 is a date of interest in our country. One half of the country's political class have called for mass protests against, among other issues, the unbearable cost of living in the country. The other half that wield the instruments of power of course unlawfully, has urged all citizens to ignore the protests, call and go about their daily activities. Comrades, in which side are we? We in the side of those supporting to have demonstrations across the country until the cost of living goes down.
On Monday, 20th marked the D-Day for Azimio's nationwide protests, with leaders from Azimio leading the protesters across the Nairobi CBD and its environs. The protests were later witnessed gaining momentum in different counties, including Kisumu, which is one of the Azimio's strongholds.
Ati leo Jumatatu tarehe 20
The demonstrations were met by extreme criticism from leaders from the Kenya Kwanza, including the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who asked for cessation of the protest, adding that the country had lost almost 2 billion in businesses.
We have a country to run, and we want to ask those who are organizing demonstrations, those who are organizing chaos, those who are organizing mayhem, to be decent people. As a result, this morning, because of lack of business in the CBD, the country has lost almost 2 billion shillings in terms of business. And this is money that should have been circulating in the economy. We want to urge these people to consider this afternoon to call off the chaos, the mayhem, the intimidation, because what they are doing is destroying our economy.
While addressing the press on Tuesday, the opposition chief Raila Odinga declared that they will be taking protests to the streets every Monday and Thursdays every week.
Finally, fellow Kenyans, in the second phase of our protests, in response to public demand, we shall now hold protests every Monday and every Thursday beginning next week.
Odinga further added that the mass action will not end until Kenyans get what is rightfully theirs. Will this exert enough pressure for Kenya Kwanza government to heed to their demands? Only time will tell. Hilary Kabila.
President William Ruto has disclosed his administration's plan to fix the dollar shortage in Kenya. Speaking on Wednesday, the president assured business people that with the market-driven strategies, the shortage should be fixed in a matter of weeks. Ruto said his administration has also undertaken innovative strategies to ease the burden of the availability of dollars in the market. He added that they already have an agreement that will see Kenyans access fuel on deferred 6 months credit. He said the move will ease demand for about $500 million in every month from this market. President Ruto said that through the Central Bank of Kenya, they are having a conversation to reinstate the interbank exchange market, which has not been in operation. He said players in the sector, including banks, are working with the Central Bank, and soon Kenya will take charge of the dollar market, doing away with brokers. Ruto urged individuals holding dollars that they could soon run into losses if they do not do what is right. He was addressing the Nairobi Securities Exchange, where he had gone to ring the bell during the listing of Labtrust Imara.
As you are aware, the affordable housing program is designed to provide...
Cabinet Secretary is here present. There are many people here, sir, who own companies, and we'd like to crusade with you to get them to list their companies. Welcome to all of you this morning for this historic to prioritize economic reforms. Today's bell ringing comes less than 6 months since your last visit here, Your Excellency, where you challenged both the private and public sector companies to revitalize the capital markets through embarking on an aggressive listing strategy for both private and public firms. Today's listing is a testament of the market's response to your urgent directive and a testament of the trend we should expect in Kenya's capital markets over the next few months.
We have a plan. Your Excellency, as you always tell us, we must work with a plan. And I want to take a few minutes to explain to you why we have done well and how we plan to make it better. One, Your Excellency, over the last 4 months, we have built a consensus across the financial services sector that we shall participate in economic transformation through REITs for affordable housing and invest for the transport, energy, water and sanitation, ICT and other related infrastructure.
This momentous listing signifies the evolution of our capital markets, which have consistently shown resilience in the face of challenging local and global financial developments, as well as responsiveness to the needs of a market that gets increasingly complex and sophisticated with each passing day. Our capital markets capacity to evolve on a sustainable, continuing basis is therefore a critical pillar of our competitiveness as an economy, and it is also a fundamental factor of our ability to finance development, thereby creating jobs and alleviating poverty.
The ongoing renovation of Embu Stadium is on course in readiness to host this year's Madaraka Day celebration. Refurbishment work is being carried out by Modern Precast Scale Limited under supervision of Kenya Defence Forces at the cost of 300 million Kenya shillings. Speaking during an inspection tour, KDF Deputy Commander Construction Engineer Colonel Morris Omwende said the work was on schedule for the delivery of the stadium by mid-May. James Odhiambo with the full report.
The ongoing renovation of Embu Stadium is on course in readiness to host this year's Madaraka Day celebrations. The refurbishment work is being carried out by Modern Precast Limited under the supervision of Kenya Defence Forces at a cost of 300 million Kenya shillings. Speaking during an inspection tour, KDF Deputy Commander Construction Engineer Morris Owende said the work was on schedule for delivery for the stadium by mid-May. He additionally stated that the production of materials done using the new precast concrete technology, where beams and benches were being made and cured elsewhere and only shipped to the site for installation, had saved time that would have been taken if done on site.
So far, all seems to be going on well. The works are on schedule. Our target is by 5th of April, the main pavilion will be already, the framework or the shell will be complete up to the roofing system. All the benches that are required for the main pavilion and the eastern terrace are complete. So only the southern terrace benches are now under production, and by end of next week that phase will be completed of all the benches.
According to the project contractor, Babaria, 90% of the production had been done and the technology had reduced the time that would have been spent using the traditional method by 60 to 70%.
Our 90% production is done, as Commander tells us. This technology is basically help us to reduce time by 60 to 70%. And also the quality and everything can maintain in this technology. So this is fast, and we are going to achieve our target as we discuss for 1st June.
Embu CES in charge of lands, mining, physical planning, housing and urban development, Raymond Kinyua, noted that they were satisfied with the progress and confident that the stadium will be completed on time.
The entire stadium will host a total of 8,700 seating, but it has a potential of having a larger capacity who can utilize the various spaces that have been left. From our technical team, we keep on checking daily progress, and we are glad to say that this is a project that is going to be delivered on time, and we are looking forward to host the Madaraka Day celebrations in this particular venue.
Madaraka Day is a national holiday in Kenya, celebrated on the first day of the month of June every year to commemorate the attainment of Kenya's internal self-rule from the British colonial powers in the year 1963. In 2022, Madaraka Day celebrations were held in Uhuru Gardens Memorial Park, themed Pamoja Tusonge Mbele, after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic that ravaged Kenyans. The government has settled on small and medium enterprises as this year's theme of Madaraka Day celebrations in a bid to improve the spur economic growth. James Odhiambo, GBS News.
Members of Parliament on Wednesday, the 22nd of March, supported a motion by Nyali Member of Parliament Mohammed Ali, which seeks to prohibit public debate on lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer. The members of Parliament who discussed the matter have warned that LGBTQ threatens African culture and the family unit, among other effects. The legislators in support of the motion include Honorable Katana Paul Kahinde, Member of Parliament Kaloleni, Rabbi Member of Parliament Anthony Kenga, and Hilary Kosgei, Member of Parliament Kipkilin West, among others. Here are the details.
Gay rights are human rights. Stop killing us.
It could be illegal to converse, publish, or calculate anything related to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer in the country. Should a motion tabled by Nyali Member of Parliament Mohammed Ali be adopted by Parliament, the motion seeks to outlaw public debate on same-sex marriages. The outspoken Nyali Member of Parliament Mohammed Ali said that practicing same-sex marriage relation is not a practice of democratic rights or African culture, but rather a satanic culture from the West. He called on Meg Whitman, United States Ambassador to Kenya, to respect Kenyan culture as Kenya respects theirs, further stating that those interested in supporting gay rights should do so in their own country.
Kabisa kuanza kwa kuwapongeza wabunge la taifa kwa kujitokeza na kuweza kuunga mkono mswada huu wa kupinga matendo ya kishetani, ya kupinga matendo ya wazungu. Na nataka kumwambia balozi wa Marekani humu nchini Bi Meg Whitman, ya kwao ya Marekani ayafanye Marekani na ya Kenya aachie wa Kenya wafanye ya Kikenya. Eti Marekani inakuja kusema demokrasia wanaume wapandane kama mbuzi. Demokrasia wanawake wapandane. Hiyo si demokrasia, hiyo ni ushetani. Sisi tunaheshimu katiba yao na wao waheshimu katiba yetu, waheshimu dini zetu, waheshimu utamaduni wetu na waheshimu Uafrika na Ukenya ndani yetu.
In a tweet on Tuesday, the U.S. ambassador said America will continue to promote human rights and equality of LGBTQ persons. Contributing during the debate, members of Parliament called for tough laws that will ensure that those propagating and practicing LGBTQ will be punished. The legislators noted that Kenya has its laws stipulated in the Constitution and that same-sex marriages go contrary to our African culture and religious beliefs. Those who supported the motion include Honorable Katana Paul Kahinde, Member of Parliament Kaloleni, Rambai Member of Parliament Anthony Kenga, and Hilary Kosgei, Member of Parliament Kipkilin West, among others.
Nchi hii ina sheria zake na kanuni zake ambazo ziko katika ndani ya katiba. Haya mambo ambayo yanazungumziwa kuhusu mambo ya ushoga na mambo ya usagaji yanaenda kinyume na mila na tamaduni zetu kama Waafrika. Ile tunataka kuzungumzia, Madam Speaker, ni kwamba tunapinga vikali kiini ama njia yoyote ile ambayo inaweza kuleta mahusiano ya mwanamume kwa mwanamume.
Taifa letu la Kenya ni taifa ambalo tuko na misingi ya kidini. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, dini zote ndani ya taifa la Kenya halikubaliani na masuala ya mambo ya mashoga na usagaji. Kwa hiyo mimi nataka niunge mkono nikisema kwamba ninapinga kikamilifu.
We will not accept gays, we will not accept lesbians in our society, Madam Speaker, and we have to stand firm as the African society and be counted in this world stage as a continent that fears God and as a people who respect culture and marriage as ordained in the holy books of Christianity and Quran.
The motion comes at a time when Kenyan government as well as religious leaders have opposed the Supreme Court ruling which allowed for the registration of LGBTQ organizations in the country. On Friday, world-renowned evangelist and founder of International Youth Fellowship and a Good News Mission Church that has spanned in over 100 nations, Reverend Dr. Oxo Park, while addressing the East African Christian Leaders Fellowship, CLF, at Kasarani, appeared to indirectly clarify the debate surrounding the LGBTQ+, explaining what God meant when he did his creation works to the jubilation of the congregation.
A woman cannot have a baby by herself without a man. A man as well must have a woman to have a baby. When God made man, God made people to have mates. The men here, if God made man and not the woman, that wouldn't make any sense, right?
Earlier this month, the Supreme Court had ruled that the LGBTQ society had a right to associate, a move that invited backlash from various quarters, including politicians led by the president himself.
Yale maneno tunasikia pale kotini, ati kuna chama ati ya kutetea, ati wanaume waoe wanaume, ati wamama waoe wamama. Sasa hiyo ni mambo gani hiyo? Hiyo ni mambo gani? Sasa mimi nauliza, hata wale wanapitisha hiyo maneno na hatuna ubaya na kotini. Sasa mama akioa mama mwingine watabiana nini? Mama mtabiana nini? Hiyo maneno hatutaki.
With the exception of South Africa and Cape Verde, lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender rights in Africa are limited in comparison to the United States, Canada, Western Europe, Australia and New Zealand. Recently, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni described gay people as deviants and called for an investigation into homosexuality as lawmakers in the conservative East African nation prepare to vote on an anti-LGBT bill.
The homosexuals are deviations from normal. The Western countries should stop wasting the time of humanity by trying to impose their practices on other peoples.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender rights in the United States rank among the highest in the world, with public opinion and jurisprudence changing significantly since the late 1980s. By early 2020s, an overwhelming majority of Americans approved the legality of the same-sex marriages. Beatrice Njeri, GBS News. Emotions ran high on Wednesday afternoon as members of the National Assembly debated loss of property and business closing occasioned by Monday protests led by opposition wing Azimio. Legislators affiliated to Azimio justified the Monday protests, accusing the government of making life unbearable to Kenyans, whereas the Kenya Kwanza affiliated wing castigated the protests as destructive and wreaking havoc to an already failing economy. Here are the details.
Unnecessary. Order, Honorable Wandai, order.
It was a total disorder in the National Assembly as members of Parliament argued to justify or dismiss the legality of Monday Azimio-led protests to force the government to lower the cost of living. Led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, the ruling party castigated the Monday protests that claimed 2 lives, one of a third-year Maseno student, saying that the Raila Odinga-led opposition should take responsibility for any consequences of the protests.
The Religious Council to give them to political parties, as happened under the IPPG setup. But Honorable Speaker, I am saying it is preposterous for the Azimio team, led by their sponsor and the puppet, Honorable Speaker, to be taking this country through what I have described as urban banditry and economic terrorism.
Mr. Speaker, we have been told many times, and there's been a tradition in this House, that you don't impute improper motive on a person who has got no capacity or opportunity to defend themselves in this House. Regardless of what personal issues...
Order, raise the point
I'm
of order.
raising it, Mr. Speaker. What is the hurry, Mr. Speaker?
So what we do, Rosa?
But in a quick rejoinder, Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi dismissed the majority side, claiming it had lost touch with reality and that Kenyans were suffering, and by the turn of Monday events, one would conclude that the government had failed in its mandate to provide for its citizens and that protests were well placed to force the government into action.
Will not serve this house. Demonstrations and picketing are in the law, in the Constitution. And when it is going on, it is the duty of the police to maintain order.
Safely and without being armed. And Honorable Speaker, when you are looking at our TVs, we saw quite a number of youths who are armed. In fact, Honorable Speaker, there was a video going around where we saw some stones being sold at a cost of Kenya shillings 20.
So the reason why we have a problem with the Monday demonstrations is because the policemen, who we do provide budget for every year, who we pay their salaries every month, instead of protecting the public, ended up fighting, throwing tear gas, doing all such things you can imagine to the public.
Kenyans, and to ensure the democratic rights of Kenyans enshrined in this constitution are protected. And one of them is to protect the sovereign. And therefore, the police were protecting the sovereignty of this nation against people whose only idea is that they can never lose an election.
Nobody did that statement. Why did Kenyans choose to close? Number 3, nobody said that all Kenyans in the 47 countries are going to march to State House. I have heard members contribute that people dressed up in a state that they were going to take over from State House. Myself, I was in white. And I wanted to march peacefully because I represent the youths. I represent the hungry women. I represent the PWDs.
Called the House. Meanwhile, Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has said that Azimio la Umoja has served police notice for Monday and Thursday protests. While addressing the press on Wednesday, Kioni said that Kenyans have a right to demonstrate and that police should provide security. Addressing the press on Tuesday, Raila declared that they will be taken to the streets every Monday and Thursday weekly. The demos will commence next week. Manuya Kevin, GBS News.
And on that note, you're going to be taking our first commercial break. We'll be right back with even more. Do make sure to keep the conversation going on our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. Let's take that break.
If we want better societies, let us be open and willing to offer solutions.
My name is Mary Gaki or Mary Njero.
If you've ever met any video that starts with ladies, that is the man over here.
My name is Wycliffe Ithali. I am a psychologist and counselor.
If you're a believer, be the church. Don't go to church, but be the church.
Someone said that if you want to change the world, mentor a child.
And one thing that I've grown to see, and every day it's happening in our community.
You learn how to communicate because communication is everything.
Boys are brought up in a different way, or to believe things are different from their counterparts who are girls.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You're still watching GBS News at 9, and now let us dive into matters international. The Ugandan parliament has passed a bill setting out jail terms for up to 10 years for offenses related to same-sex relationships, forcing rights groups to condemn the legislation as appalling. The bill was passed late on Tuesday inside a packed parliamentary chamber in the capital, Kampala. A roll call was ordered by the House Speaker, who had repeatedly warned it was necessary to identify those who might oppose the legislation. It was supported by nearly all of the 389 legislators present. Let's take a look.
A roll call was ordered by the House Speaker, who had repeatedly warned it was necessary to identify those who might oppose the legislation. It was supported by nearly all of the 389 legislators present. Speaker Anita Among said, "Congratulations, wherever we are doing it for the people of..."
To restrict any right to the extent of the House recognizes, protects and safeguards the sovereignty of this country, the morals of this country, the cultures, and will always legislate for our people. That is what the majority have done today in this House, the 389 members of Parliament.
We will have Uganda. An earlier version of the bill enacted in 2014 was later nullified by a court on procedural grounds. The East African country is notorious for its intolerance of homosexuality, which was criminalized under colonial-era laws. Amnesty International subsequently urged Uganda President Yoweri Museveni to veto the anti-gay bill, warning it was a grave assault on LGBTQ people. But he suggested in a recent speech that he supported the bill, accusing unnamed Western nations of trying to impose their practices on other people. The bill was introduced last month by an opposition lawmaker who said his goal was to punish promotion, recruitment, and funding related to LGBTQ activity. It creates the offense of aggravated homosexuality, which applies in cases of sex relations involving those infected with HIV, as well as minors and other categories of vulnerable people.
Our morals will protect our children, and we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no...
It was not immediately clear what the punishment was for that offense following last-minute amendments in a protracted plenary session in the capital, Kampala. The bill also creates the offense of attempted homosexuality punishment with up to 10 years in jail. Same-sex activity is already punishable with life imprisonment under a colonial era targeting knowledge against the order of nature. Partly the basis of a report by the dissenters on the parliamentary committee that vetted the bill before Tuesday vote. Jennifer Macau, GBS.
And the ongoing New York grand jury was expected on Wednesday to resume its closed-door investigation of whether Donald Trump made illegal hush money payments to a porn star, which could yield the first-ever criminal charges against any U.S. president. The panel has been meeting regularly on Mondays and Wednesdays to consider evidence in one of the many legal probes swirling around the former president as he mounts a comeback bid for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Lino Linjok with a report.
Mountain District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office has been investigating $130 paid to porn star Stormy Daniels in the final weeks of Trump's 2016 election campaign. Trump's former fixer Michael Cohen has said he had made the payment at Trump's direction to buy her silent about Trump's extramarital affair. Trump has denied the affair took place and others in his orbit have said Cohen acted on his own.
This isn't a question of vindication. It's not a question, as I stated before, about revenge. My position is that At the end of the day, Donald Trump needs to be held accountable for his dirty deeds if in fact that's the way that the facts play out. Plain and simple. This is not about him. This is about holding accountability, truth to power, and everything else in between.
Security was high around the courthouse where the grand jury has been meeting, with the court officers out earlier and barricaded up around the building. Tuesday, the day Trump had predicted he will be arrested, came and went without action. About half of Americans believe the New York investigation is politically motivated, but a large majority find it believable that he paid hush money to a porn star. If charges were filed, Trump would have to travel to New York from his Florida home for a mug shot and fingerprinting. Security officials are bracing for possible unarrest, but so far few of Trump's supporters have heeded his call for protest. Republicans in the House of Representatives launched an investigation of Bragg's office on Monday with a letter seeking communication, documents, and testimony related to the effort. Bragg's office said that will not affect its work. Trump and his political allies also face two criminal investigations, one in Georgia and one by the federal government, stemming from the attempt to overturn his 2020 presidential election defeat. Lena Lunjok, GBS News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping have made a sweeping affirmation of their alignment across a host of issues in a lengthy statement following talks between the two leaders in Moscow. The two parties shared mistrust of the United States, among other issues, calling for deeper bilateral ties following their Tuesday summit, where they discussed issues including Ukraine and Taiwan. Let's take a look.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin have made a sweeping affirmation of their alignment across a host of issues and shared mistrust of the United States in a lengthy statement following talks between the two leaders in Moscow this week. Their meeting, which took place under the shadow of Russia's onslaught in Ukraine, left no question about Beijing's commitment in developing its rapport with Moscow despite Putin's growing isolation on the global stage as its devastating war continues into its second year.
We shall always respect and abide by the UN Charter. We will always promote peace and also promote negotiation and discussion. Our stance is always based on fairness and justice. We will always be on the side of peace. We are always on the side of dialogue. We are always on the side of historic fairness and justice.
It also failed to move the needle on bringing that conflict to resolution. Instead, Xi's three-day visit to the Russian capital, which concluded Wednesday, was an opportunity for the two self-described friends to showcase their close personal rapport amidst the pomp of a state visit and lay out how they could advance a world order that counters one they see as led by Washington and its democratic allies.
Today we learned that the Minister of Defence of the UK declared he would supply tanks to the Ukraine and also uranium-enriched weapons to Ukraine. I think that the West will now fight Russia to the last Ukrainian.
Xi and Putin also discussed Taiwan, a major source of tension between China and the US. Russia supporters Beijing's One China's principle acknowledges Taiwan to be an inalienable part of China, according to the joint statement. Russia opposes Taiwan's independence and supports Chinese actions to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity, the statement also said. In a further signal of their united front against the U.S., the leaders called for a multipolar world order and expressed concerns over the AUKUS security pact between the U.S. and the U.K. and Australia. Jennifer Macau, GBS News.
Tensions over plans to transform Air India into a global airline with hundreds of new jets rippled across the aviation sector on Tuesday as foreign carriers clamored for more access to the world's fastest growing economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government faces growing demands to ease a near freeze on capacity that can be deployed on many routes and from India. Now India's flag carrier has been sold to the cash-rich Tata Conglomerate. Let's take a look.
that the current limit on the amount of flying allowed between India and many markets date back to heavy losses at Air India around the beginning of the last decade. However, a huge overhaul of the airline, including the world's largest ever plane ordered for 470 jets, rekindled a debate over market access to a new Delhi aviation conference on Tuesday. Dubai's Emirates, Turkish Airlines, and Kuwaiti carrier Jazeera Airways all called for sharp increases in traffic rights to and from India to meet their demands. Vietnam and Indonesia also want more flights. In an exclusive interview, Indian Civil Aviation Minister told the government is not currently looking at easing caps. He urged Indian Airlines to order more big jets to meet demand without forcing passengers to change planes. Currently, most Indians use foreign carriers for long trips, often changing at Gulf hubs, with relatively few long-range jets based in the country despite a population of 1.3 billion. The rebirth of Air India and launch of a new Saudi carrier with dozens of jet orders has shuffled the deck and left Dubai massive international hub flanked by new rivals. Lena Lunchok, GBS News.
And on that note, that takes us to our sports news. But first, let's take a quick breather. We'll be right back with the sports.
Nakukaribisha tena katika makao makuu yako katika ulimwengu wa michezo.
Yoga is not a sport. Yoga is actually a way of life.
Ukiona FIFA inaingilia kati, it means that the FIFA rules have been violated.
From day one akiingia kwa akademi yako, unamwambia masomo na talent lazima ziende. The moment unasikia masomo imeenda hivi chini, hata time out. Hata hiyo time out kwa football na account.
Yeah, wanawake ni wengi actually mpaka saa hizi. Tumekaa ni kama tumekuwa wanawake wamekuwa wengi kuliko wanaume. Kuna wale ambao ni artistic. Yes, wanapenda mambo ya kuigiza.
I am coded to look for solutions.
You limit yourself, not the sport doesn't limit you.
We say a dedicated women-only show that focuses only on women.
Everywhere, GBS.
Harambee Stars will face Iran on a friendly match at Tehran on 28th this month, with coach Injin Farhat terming the match as a measure of his team capability. Farhat said the match will help him to know the character of his players and their ability to play under pressure. Farhat has brought a forum of scouting Kenya foreign-based potential players whom he feels they were earlier denied a chance on the national team. He terms the players to have more capacity since they have been grounded from international standards abroad, thus helping them play at higher levels. Here are the details.
Kenya national team Harambee Stars will face Iran on 28th on friendly match at Tehran. Newly appointed coach Injin Farhat has said he is not up to good result on the match, but want to see the character and ability of his players to work under pressure.
I trust my players. I'm not afraid. We'll go out and face them. Because for me, this is not a match for result. For me, it's a match where I see which players can perform under stress, under pressure, which players have the character and the will. This shows me the way when we play the games against, I don't know, good teams in Africa in the qualifier.
Farhat, who seemed to be so determined to shape the national team, has called players from different clubs on the training camp at Kasarani, with the Turkish naming a couple of foreign players who earlier did not appear on the national team squad. Farhat said he is up to bring in more Kenyan foreign-based players whom he feels they have the capacity to play at high levels. Taylor Onyango of Everton and Maina of FC Köln are among the players on his list, with Alfred Scriven being the first player already on the training camp. Scriven is a Kenyan Norway-based striker who plays for Uld in Norway. He has scored 13 goals in 44 appearances in his club, and he is expected to have a great impact since the 25-year-old is comfortable playing at all three front part, left winger, center forward, and right winger.
I was born and raised in Kenya. I stayed here for 16, 17 years, and then I moved to Norway. And my mom comes from Kenya, and my dad's from England. I was caught by surprise. So the coach, he sent me a message on Facebook, and then asked if he could call me on WhatsApp. And then we spoke. He was straight to the point, and then asked me to come.
Daniel Onyembe too is a key defender who plays for Viborg in Denmark and has been a key player in the Danish club. Hassan Benja and Joseph Mwangi of Zoya Sugar also appeared on the squad for the first time, with Elvis Rupia and Benson Omara, who are in terrific form on the FKF League, being the key starters on the front alongside engineer Mikael Olunga of Duail FC. David Ochieng of Madare, Daniel Onyembe of Viborg in Denmark, Joseph Okumu of Genk, Belgium, Kenneth Muguno of Azam, Tanzania, Duke Abuy of Kenya Police, Daniel Zakari of Tusker, Abu Domar of Kenya Police, Victor Omune of AFC Leopards, Moses Mudavadi of Kakamega Homeboys, Brian Mandela of South Africa, Eric Ouma of AK Sweden, and Andre Juma of Bandari are among the 30-man squad at the camp. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm MacDonald.
And now to international sports. Victor Osimhen will be seeking to help his country qualify for the Africa's Cup of Nations this week, as they are set to host Guinea-Bissau. Osimhen is the leading top scorer in a Serie A and has been on the radar on top of European clubs, including Manchester United. On the other hand, Kylian Mbappe takes charge of France captain after Hugo Lloris retired on national team action after losing to Argentina on the World Cup finals. Mbappe will captain his first match on Friday, as they will face France, which will face Netherlands on Friday on Euro 2024 qualification. Finally, Roy Hodgson returns at Selzak Park as the new Crystal Palace coach, replacing Patrice Vieira, who went for 12 winless runs. Here are the details.
Crystal Palace have reappointed England former manager Roy Hodgson as their new boss. Hodgson, who was in Selhurst Park from 2017 to 2021, replaced Patrice Vieira, who went 12 winless runs, putting Palace on the 12th place, 3 points above the relegation zone. The 75-year-old football specialist saying the main objective was to put Palace back to winning form and secure a point to put them on the Premier League status. He will be assisted by Paddy McCarthy, and he will have a difficult job to revive a team that has not won any match in 2023. Kylian Mbappe has succeeded Hugo Lloris as the new France captain. Hugo Lloris, who has been the captain for more than a decade, retired from playing for the national team in January after losing to Argentina during the World Cup final. Mbappe, 24 years old, took the role after holding a discussion with Didier Deschamps. He has played 66 times for the national team and will be assisted by Antoine Griezmann as the vice captain. Mbappe is also the vice captain of France side PSG, his current club, behind Brazilian Marquinhos, who is the captain. Mbappe will captain his first match on Friday against Netherlands on the Euro 2024 qualifiers at Stade de France. Prolific Nigerian top scorer Victor Osimhen will be seeking to help his country qualify for the Africa's Cup of Nations as they host Guinea-Bissau this week. Osimhen scored twice as his side eliminated Eintracht Frankfurt, and he is the leading top scorer in Serie A. Osimhen, whose dream is playing for Premier League, has been on radar of top football clubs in London, including Manchester United, who are looking to bring the Nigerian forward in Old Trafford in the next transfer window. Nigerian coach Jose Pasiro has a wealth of talent on the front, since Ademola Lookman of Atalanta is among the top scorers of Serie A, and Terem Murphy has been a starring in Nice. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm McDonald.
And that news marks the end of our news segment tonight. A big thank you to everyone who made this a success. And of course, once again, thank you very much for joining this live broadcast. Let's meet again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge. Good night.